What is up, guys? Welcome. Crypto FUD. Happy Friday. Let's jump right into this. Guys. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. Let's do it. If you guys have seen on the thumbnail, Ethereum just broke over $4,000 briefly just a little while ago. Right now, we are going to pull up the Ethereum chart. As we speak, you can see Ethereum looking fantastic at 39.70 as of now. Looking great. We did get rejected at that $4,000 mark. We're going to talk about some things here, cover the rest of the market, some news that's going on, stuff that we've already covered like a week ago, but it seems like it's relevant now, so we'll bring that up. TJ, what's going on, bro? Ricky, what's going on? I keep wanting to say Crypto Ricky, but we're on a first name basis here. What's going on, Rick? Flip, what's going on, brother? What are you laughing at, Flip? What the hell are you laughing at, bro? Let's hear it, because I don't have a hat on. Someone called me, what did someone say the other day? He said I look like the guy that was trying to attack the Three Ninjas. You guys remember that show? Like 20 years ago, the guy was like he had his hair back slicked. I don't know, if you know the movie, it's hilarious, but it is what it is. Well, let's jump into this, guys. Bro, Ethereum broke $4,000, guys. $4,000. Obviously, if you've been around for the last few years, 5 years, Ethereum breaking $4,000 isn't, nothing crazy, but this is a milestone for us, right? And I just feel good because on the channel, we have been calling for $4,000 Ethereum since Ethereum was back at around 2,500. I told you guys, we covered this. I said, listen, institutions are about to start flooding in to Ethereum. Ethereum's going to have a couple, spots for resistance, but if at some point it is going to get back up to $4,000, and it's going to be a struggle to break that $4,000 and stay above it. But at some point, we are going to do it, right? Now, again, we hit 4,000, right? Let's see exactly. We ran up to about $4,012 on this chart. I'm sure it fluctuates a little bit, but we broke above $4,000, right? You can see $4,000 is obviously going to be a big spot for some resistance. I have this chart up. This is on our daily. You can see, obviously, we have, since the last few weeks, we've been talking about this. We finally broke above this downward trend since making these all-time highs back in 2021. You can see Ethereum has done this before. We're going to cover an article that basically states the same thing. The last time Ethereum broke above 4K was back in December of 2024. And we're going to cover dominance as well, because I'm going to show you guys, we've already, we've covered this all before, but, you got to keep going over and over it so everybody, you kind of get the gist of it. Ethereum back in 2024, so long ago, right? 8-9 months ago, Ethereum and alts were doing great. We had a nice run. Dominance dropped, right? Because remember, Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance are inverse, right? Dominance goes down, Ethereum's going to go up. Ethereum goes up, alts are going to usually go up with it. So we had this double top. We ran up to about 4,100 before getting rejected twice. That's why I've told you guys plenty of times, as we were moving up, I said there's going to be some key levels that we're watching, right? First was the trend. We broke. Trend was around 36. Next was the 236. 236 was around 37. Obviously, we broke, but it wasn't just breaking above the 236. It was finding support above. And, right now, on the daily, it doesn't look like we have support, but I'm sure if we zoom in a little bit, let's just look at the 2 hour here. You can see. Before we blast it off here, you can see we did actually come and bounce off this 236, right? 236, we hit our head, broke above, and looks like we found that support, and that's what kind of gave us that next leg up to break that 4,000. I personally wouldn't be surprised if we maybe come back down at some point. We want, it's almost certain that we're going to come back to the 236 at around the 3,700. Most likely, we don't have to, but most likely we probably will, just to find that support, that solid support, usually on the daily or at least the 4 hour, a couple nice green or red candles. But the point is that we're having support at the 236. If we can find that, I wouldn't be surprised at some point we bounce, fly up to start retesting the most pivotal area that we're going to have right now not the 4,000, not the 236, not the trend line. It's going to be that 4,100 area. That's going to be the holy grail of what we need to break. You can see we have not broke 4,100 since 2021. So that's going to be the big area that we're really going to be focused on as far as breaking above, and not just breaking above, but staying above that 41. Mark my words, as soon as Ethereum stays above $4,100, and I mean as a support level, 4,100, your portfolio is going to be massively in the green. I guarantee it. We're going to pull up the Bitcoin dominance, because Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance, they go hand in hand, right? ETH is up, and look at dominance. Dominance is starting to come, or I mean, it's been down, but it looks like we're starting to come back down to a level that we bounced off of, which was around that 60.4% level. That's going to be an area, for whatever reason, it is like an odd area that we're holding as some support for right now. The big area that I'm looking for, this is going to kind of coincide with what I was just saying. 4,100, Bitcoin dominance is going to break below 60%. That's the level that we're looking for on both charts, right? Because remember, they're inverse. Ethereum's up, dominance is down, right? So as soon as Ethereum is breaking above 4,100, hopefully it can stay above. You're going to see dominance breaking below this line right here, which I have it at 59.88 to be exact, but we'll just call it the 60%. That's what we need to break below and stay below. That is really what's going to give us this massive alt run that we're waiting for. And you can see when we go back to the Ethereum chart, we're on the daily. I already have it. I've had this here for the last year and a half. As soon as we break above 41 and we stay above, you're officially going to be in altcoin season. We aren't there yet, guys. It feels like it. I know a lot of my portfolios have been doing fantastic. I've been taking profits, because I stick and move a lot. I haven't been selling off on a lot of my stuff, but on quick movers, stuff that's been running up like 60, 70%, or I have 2x, 3x certain positions, I've sold and then kind of wait for, some kind of a retracement, and then I buy back in because I'm long-term on a lot of these projects, but I'm not going to give up, a lot of these profits that I'm seeing as far as the last few weeks. So things have been going great, guys. What's crazy is we start off with Ethereum, didn't even talk about Bitcoin, right? Let me jump in the chat real quick. TJ said, I almost lost my badge. I have to pay. It's all good, brother. It's all good. Whenever you get a chance, man. Koktoshi, what's going on, brother? Love the name. It's all good, TJ. I know you'll be back, bro. We're going to be doing some trenches. I owe you guys a lot of trenches. Like I told you guys at the beginning, for the member stream this week, my daughter starting school on Monday. It has been like I have been her Uber driver during our streaming hours. So normally yesterday mornings and evenings, the times that we normally stream, I'm literally having to take her. She had open house, still with the supplies. Her last minute, she wants to hang out with all her friends, and it's just like I've been literally an Uber driver for the last 5 days. I'm like, dude, I want to talk to her loud because I can't wait till school starts. Can't wait because I'm ready to get back on my schedule. So we're definitely going to be killing it on trenches here in the next couple days, this weekend, and also this week coming up. We're going to be back 100% back on track for our member stream. So you still have a little bit of time to jump back in, TJ, so no worries. So with Bitcoin, I've said this. We talked about this on the last members only stream. You notice how we jump in and we're talking about Ethereum, right? We're talking about Ethereum, Bitcoin dominance. Didn't really even bring up Bitcoin's price necessarily right now, because we have hit a point, like I've said plenty of times. Obviously, we don't want Bitcoin to come down, but Bitcoin where it's at right now, we're good. We're good. We obviously want Bitcoin to keep moving up, and at some point, Bitcoin is going to have another breakout because it has been respecting this channel too perfectly. A lot of times when it does this bull flag, this thing's going to shoot up. It's probably going to be next week, maybe this weekend. We've had a lot of bullish stuff going on as far as news, executive orders, with the 401k and all this good stuff. So it's only a matter of time when Bitcoin's probably going to shoot up. The stock market looking fantastic today. S&P coming close to all-time highs again. Looks like it's up about 0.6. NASDAQ's up 0.7. Dow Jones up 0.3. The DXY has kind of been stagnant around $98, and the VIX is obviously down. So, I mean, across the board, as far as investments, everything looks great. Crypto's it's doing good. It's right now your alts are doing decent. right? You can look at the bubbles. You can see, I mean, nice movers today. We have Aerodrome that's been doing really good. This is on Base. This is Base's biggest swap, doing fantastic. Chainlink doing good. We're actually going to talk about Chainlink here in a second. Pendle, I don't know exactly what that is. And then we have Lido up about 11%, but XRP's up 7%, Doge 5%, HBAR up almost 4%, Floki 3%, ICP up 3%, right? So you can see across the board, Ethereum Classic up 5.5%, Crows up 3.5%, Uniswap, obviously the biggest swap on Ethereum's up as well. That Ethereum's going to be doing well. You're going to have all these swaps doing good. Pepe's coming up 4%. So across the board, looks fantastic, right? Everything looks great. Alts are doing good. And that right there just proves to you that, Bitcoin right now, not having a bad day. I mean, it's not really rallying today. It is shot up pretty well yesterday in the last couple of days. We called this on our Monday stream. I said this week, we'll probably have a decent week coming. And I literally said this, we'll probably come up to the top of this channel, right? Because we really don't have too much that's going to hold us back. I honestly thought we were going to probably break out of the channel just because of all the bullish news that we've had the last couple of days or this past week with nothing really holding us back. But, we haven't done it yet. Like I said, Bitcoin's at such a pivotal spot right now. Obviously, we want to see it move up, slowly but surely. But we don't want to see Bitcoin just start moon rocketing up to 130, 140, because what's going to happen is that dominance is going to start spiking again. Ethereum's probably going to be cooling off. Your alts are probably going to be cooling off massively while Bitcoin kind of takes the show again. We're probably going to see that at some point in the next few months. But what I'm saying is right now, we really want to see Ethereum just keep shining, keep holding its dominance. Dominance for Bitcoin coming down while Bitcoin's price is kind of staying solid. So it's a crazy equation, but that's what we're looking for. So let's see here. So let's jump into a couple things. So I know you guys probably have a lot going on today. It still is Friday. So we talked about this, I think, on the last stream. I'm trying to remember, but we did talk about this. We're at 90% for the Fed's interest rates for a possible reduction in September. It actually has come down slightly. We were talking about this a few days ago, and it was at around 93%. It has come down a little bit. It is going to fluctuate slightly, right? You're going to see fluctuations slightly as we get closer to September, just because, maybe some bullish news comes out. Oh, the Feds are going to be reducing rates. And then maybe some macro stuff comes out that doesn't favor it. And you're going to see this kind of fluctuate. But I think for the most part, we're seeing that the market looks like we're pricing in some kind of a reduction in interest rates. And I heard today, George, I watched I Am George briefly this morning while I was kind of driving and stuff like that. And he mentioned something that I thought was pretty smart, is I wouldn't be surprised if right now, so you have 10% calling for some kind of a pause, and basically about 90% calling for some kind of a reduction, at about 0.25%. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the market even start moving a little bit more bullish, to where we might see more than just 0.25%. We might end up seeing possibly 50 basis points, maybe 75 basis points. I know that seems kind of far-fetched, but I wouldn't be surprised if the market starts to kind of wing towards a piece of it, starts winging towards maybe a bigger increase in interest rate reductions, coming up in September, which at this point, anything above, any kind of reduction in interest rates is going to be nothing but positive for the markets. I think it's going to help the markets rally, especially in September, which tends to be not the best for Bitcoin, right? We've talked about this plenty of times. Let me see if I can actually, I'm not going to be able to pull it up right now, but we usually pull up the chart, and it shows that September tends to be that month during a bull run where, it'll have a nice little cool off. Bitcoin will kind of cool off before that final leg up towards the end of the year, marking that 4-year cycle. So, and we've talked about this plenty of times. As of now, you can see fear and greed. We're at pretty much neutral still, but we are starting to get closer towards that greed area. Nothing really to be alarmed about, but you can see as of earlier this week, the markets were kind of, we were in that real 50-50 mark. It looks like we're starting to move towards, most of the market is pretty much bullish right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start moving into greed. Hopefully not into extreme greed anytime, because that usually tends to be a indication that we're at some local top. So as of now, hopefully we don't get anywhere near that. Looking at some of the articles, we just spoke about this. Ethereum soars above 4K for the first time since December, right? And one thing I wanted to pull up, so we saw, like I told you guys, we saw this. This is basically in December of just 9 months ago, December of 2024. We did see a nice rally in alts, and you can see we did come up and test that 4,100 twice before getting rejected. And if you look at Bitcoin's dominance at that exact point, this was Bitcoin's dominance. Bitcoin dominance actually dropped down to 54% at the time, right? So, you can't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, literally, dominance drops, Ethereum goes up. And while Ethereum was at that 4,100, we actually, I don't know if you guys remember, this was 9 months ago, we actually had a very brief, we literally got into like some kind of an altcoin, can't even call it a season, it was like an altcoin week or two, where a lot of alts actually were 2xing and 3xing before they actually dropped down, massively in the last 6 months, which gave if you took profits during December, you made a lot of money, and then you were able to buy back in all this past year when a lot of these meme coins and alts, were down to almost bear market prices, right? While Bitcoin was actually running. So you can see this was back when, this literally is when Ethereum ran up to 4,100. Dominance just dropped all the way down to about 54%. So we're pretty much, like I said, we're looking for the same thing to happen. I don't know if we're going to drop down to 54%. That'd be awesome. I've said this plenty of times where I don't think dominance is going to drop down below 50% this time around. A lot of times, or every time during altcoin season, dominance drops down under 50%. I just don't think that's going to happen this time. And we don't necessarily need it because there's so much more money this time around. Before, in 2021, there was a lot of money, but if you guys remember, the whole crypto space, we topped out for a market cap around $2 trillion, if I'm not mistaken. It was either $2 or $3 trillion, right? Right now, we're currently sitting at around 3.9 trillion as of now, and it looks like we might have spiked up to 4 trillion. Let me see. Did we get up to 4 trillion? Could have sworn it looked like we did. We ran up to 4 trillion, but the point of what I'm getting to is this time around, our market cap's probably going to get close to $10 trillion, if not maybe more, for a brief moment. And dominance doesn't necessarily need to drop down to 50% or below for your alts to go absolutely, crazy, because you have to take in consideration this time around, you have ETFs, you have a lot of institutional monies, Michael Saylors, and all these people that are, strictly buying Bitcoin and holding, right? So Bitcoin's dominance is going to stay strong, but we necessarily don't need dominance to drop down under 50% for Ethereum to make all-time highs and for, meme coins and alts to go crazy. So let's see here. So with interest rates set to be lowered in the U.S., continuing surge of crypto treasury companies, and the deal sealed on the SEC dropping its case against Ripple, money is pouring into altcoins over the past 24 hours. Not the largest gainer, Ethereum has jumped 3.5% over the past 24 hours and pushed above 4,000 for the first time since December. The globe's second largest crypto is now higher by 20%, 25% year to date, and 112% year over year. As for the world's leading crypto, Bitcoin sits at around 116,600. This was as of earlier, is essentially flat over the last day at around 116.8. Taken together with the Ether move, the closely watched Ethereum Bitcoin ratio has risen to 3% in the past hour and now is up 42% over the last month. Bitcoin, however, is doing just fine over the long period, with Ethereum Bitcoin ratio down 4% year over year and 20% year over year. A check of some other alts finds that XRP got up to $3.31, 9% higher over the last 24 hours, and Solana jumped up 3.5%, and Dogecoin got up to about 22.5%, up 5.3%. Ethereum's treasury company stocks are moving as well. Bitmine, Emerson, BMNR is a ticker, is higher by 13% on Friday, and SharpLink Gaming is up 4%. So you can see, like I keep telling you guys, institutions are buying in on Ethereum. Bitcoin's not going anywhere, but Ethereum is doing great. Another big story, so they obviously same thing. Ethereum pops above 4K after Ripple Chainlink lead altcoin rally early Friday. So let's see here. So Ethereum surged north of 4K early Friday to near its highest level of the year to pick up from a broader altcoin rally that had been led by Ripple and Chainlinks earlier in the trading day. Altcoins were rallying early Friday following the news that Ripple would buy a stablecoin payment platform and Chainlink would launch a funded reserve for its own token. XRP was up as much as 8% early on Friday, and Chainlink was up 11%. Ethereum and Solana were up more than 1% and more than 2% respectively before the equity market opened on Friday morning. Excuse me. So let's see here. So Ripple, the company behind XRP, is the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap, announcing Friday that it would acquire Rail, a stablecoin-based global payment solution that Ripple said will help the company build out its own stablecoin payment platform. I wish they would have bought freaking Zbeck. That would have been awesome. The deal, valued at $200 million and expected to close in Q4 of this year, will offer comprehensive stablecoin pay-in and payouts across key corridors, including USD payments, without requiring customers to hold crypto on their balance sheets. Stablecoin issuer Circle went public earlier this year in one of the stock market's most successful IPOs. The company now has a market cap of $37 billion and is the seventh largest cryptocurrency by market cap and the second largest stablecoin behind Tether, and that's USDC. On Thursday, Chainlink, the company behind Link, currently the 14th largest cryptocurrency on the market according to data from CoinMarketCap, announced the launch of Chainlink Reserve. The reserve will build up its store of Link by converting revenue from institutional fees and on-chain usage fees to the coin, which will then accumulate in the reserve. So basically, it's almost like it's using fees from institutions that are using Chainlink, right? And what it's going to do is it's basically going to buy back its own coin and basically store it into a reserve, right? Almost like staking, right? They're going to be buying back their own coin and putting it into a massive reserve, which would probably stabilize the price, obviously, and nothing. And as long as people or institutions are buying Chainlink and using Chainlink, that reserve will build, right? So the announcement came as President Trump rallied to push through an executive order signed Thursday afternoon that pushes for the use of alternative investments like private equity and cryptocurrencies in retirement accounts, which have typically been reserved for more traditional mix of stocks and bond funds. And we talked about this actually like last week, if not 2 weeks ago, when the news dropped that they were potentially thinking of doing something like this, where basically now, whenever this actually goes into effect and you can do it, you don't have to only hold like bonds and the S&P and stuff like that for your 401k. You can actually now start allocating your 401k into crypto assets. I don't know exactly which crypto assets. This was what we talked about, was I don't know which ones. I was speculating 2 weeks ago that it would probably be the more secure ones like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I wouldn't be surprised if they probably throw in like something like XRP and maybe Solana or something like that, or something on those lines, right? They're not going to most likely let people use their 401ks and go all in on Floki or Pepe or something like that, which would be freaking epic. Can you imagine that? That would be crazy. But the point is 401k market is worth $12 trillion. Is all that going to be going into the crypto space? Absolutely not. But even if it was like 1%, 1 to 5%, you're talking about a massive amount of money that could potentially come into the markets and park in the markets. Not because people that have 401ks, they're not day traders, right? They're people that are they set up their buys where either through your company, through IPO or not IPOs, but like Roth IRAs and stuff like that, where you're pretty much it's doing a reoccurring buy, right? So, and it's parked. It's usually there. It's not touched, and it just continuously builds, right? That's why a lot of times you see the S&P is solid, meaning like the S&P, if you go back and you look at the last, 15, 20 years of the S&P, there have been drops, but normally it just moves up. Slowly but surely moves up, So, and just to finish off, it says, I quote, I think this is from Trump. He says, "My administration will relieve the regulatory burdens and litigation risks that impede American workers' retirement accounts from achieving the competitive returns and asset diversification necessary to secure a dignified, comfortable retirement." Okay. You know what I always think? I personally always think, with the 401ks and stuff, I think this is great because you should be able to allocate whatever you want as far as your retirement, right? And this isn't just for Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think also when we read this, it was for precious metals. Now, I know some people are like, well, you can, I think, already buy gold with your 401k. I think you can, but I think it's through there's leaps and bounds you have to do to kind of allocate it. Now I think you can literally hold gold in your 401k as well. So this isn't just for crypto. This is big across the board where it kind of it lets the investor have a broad spectrum of what they want to invest in as far as their 401k, and versus, very strict. If you guys, if you ever, work for a company, have 401k, you see what you can invest in. It's a short list. It really is. It's a short list. It's not, all, but they give you exposure to, like I said, the S&P and usually bonds, right? And I believe currencies as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's been so long since I've looked at mine. So, Bill, what's going on? Art, what's going on, bro? Art, we're going to be going into the trenches soon, bro. I got you. I saw your message last night. Shazam, what's going on? Jay's in the house. What's going on, bro? Bill, Canary, what's going on? Canary said, bro, talk about me lady. What's going on with me lady? You got some good news? Is there something going on? Yeah. Me lady. Bro, there's nothing going on with me lady right now, bro. Let's look. We pulled up me lady last week. We did. And I briefly said, listen, it seems like there's not much going on right now, but I was like, I wouldn't be surprised down the road me lady just comes out and just starts ripping. I'm looking to see if there was any news. There's no news. There's no news, bro, on me lady. It's just there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Milady, like I said, does really well. Especially, you have to remember, Milady is an Ethereum-based project. So with Ethereum building, daily and continuing to move up, price is going to reflect on projects that are based on the Ethereum network as well. Now, is that going to carry the project to all-time highs? Absolutely not. You're going to need volume. This is what I said about Milady, is the volume. Volume right now for 24-hour periods about $4 million. Market cap is so low at around 23. So, it's not doing terrible as far as volume, right? But, this needs to pick up. The number one mover for a meme coin is what? What's the number one mover for a meme coin? It's hype, right? Because they're not building an ecosystem. They're not, they're not like a currency for a country, or they're not a payment system, or anything it's just strictly hype. That's what runs a meme coin. That's what drives meme coins up to highs and stuff like that. So they have to figure out how they're going to be relevant in this space, right? And I think that they can down the road. A lot of people are still invested in Milady, so hopefully down the road, we're going to pull up that chart one day and you guys are going to come in and be like, see, look at that. And it's going to be up, a nice 10, 20x. But that day has not come yet. It has not come yet. So until then, we're going to keep talking about Ethereum. Keep talking about Ethereum, bro. So I wanted to show this. Shout out to Discovery Crypto real quick.
Made digital assets.
Hold on.
We are going big on digital assets. So Trump administration has made digital assets a priority. Past administration starved and almost made extinct a lot of these companies and pushed it offshore. So what we want to do is apply the highest U.S. regulatory and AML standards to digital assets, especially we are going big on.
And that kind of leads to the next thing is you can see here Trump signs an executive order to end the banking discrimination against crypto industry. So not going to get political, right? We respect everybody's political views, but I am going to get honest, right? And remember, last administration, they freaking were out to get crypto, if you guys remember. They did not like crypto. I don't necessarily think it was like Biden necessarily, right? But it was the people that are on that side. You know, a lot of senators like Elizabeth Warren and a few other of these people, they don't like crypto. And if you really look, this isn't just hearsay, but if you look, a lot of their backers, their donors were banks, right? And what happened is at the time, banks weren't allowed to hold crypto in their bank sheets, right? On their portfolios, or weren't allowed to actually hold on to crypto whatsoever. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to rally against crypto, you know? So they had a lot of loud voices, you know, that were in office, that are still in office, right? That were basically against crypto, and you could see it. We had the SEC, Dirty Gary, coming after every freaking crypto project, right? And exchanges. We had a lot of bills getting passed. We're going to talk about a couple right now that they're actually getting rid of now, you know, to open up the floodgates for, you know, just banking to really start being able to jump into the crypto industry. So President Donald Trump signed an executive order, which was as of yesterday, to halt what his administration called discriminatory banking practices against the crypto industry. The order bars federal regulators from using reciprocal risk as justification to influence banks' decisions about working with legal businesses. According to the administration, the digital asset sector has been disproportionately affected by behind-the-scenes pressure from regulatory agencies, leading to abrupt accounts closures, payroll disruptions, and loss of financial access for law-abiding firms. And I heard of this plenty of times where people weren't even able to, like, they would open up a Coinbase account and some of their banks wouldn't allow them to send money over to Coinbase. Imagine you have your hardworking money in a bank and the bank's telling you, oh, sorry, you can't use that service. We're not allowing that, right? Insane. Absolutely insane. So the move directly targets what critics have dubbed Operation Choke Point 2.0, a term used by the crypto industry to describe the coordinated campaign of informal regulatory pressure. While not an official program, the term refers to a pattern of supervisory actions that allegedly discourage banks from servicing digital asset companies even when those firms comply with existing laws. The modern-day choke point mirrors tactics once used by the 2010s era Department of Justice incentive, which sought to cut off bank access to industries labeled as high risk for fraud, including firearms and payday lending. Now, I mean, I understand that. Like, payday lending, that shit's a scam, right? It really is. It just puts people in holes. You know, if you guys know how that is, right? Especially if you go to certain areas of town, they're all over everywhere where they're like, you can get paid, you know, I'm trying to think of the proper way to say this, but like, you know, you can't pay your bills right now. Don't worry, you're gonna get a paycheck. Well, listen, we'll give you 60% of your paycheck, and when your paycheck comes, we're gonna take it all. You know, and it's just like it might help a person out temporarily that week, but down the road, it just gets them in a hole, and now their bills at some point, it just it's something, you know, if you don't make any moves, you're gonna be in a massive problem where now you're not going to be able to even do that, as far as, you know, even 60% of your paycheck's not going to pay for your bills, right? So I understand them, you know, going after payday lending and stuff like that. However, unlike its predecessor, the newer aeration has focused, I don't know if they mispronounced that, has focused largely on crypto. Since early 2023, multiple firms have reported unexplained debanking, often following fatigue concerns about risk rather than concrete compliance violations. Let's see here. I don't think we need to read anything else, but the point of the story is this is big. Yesterday, signing an executive orders for basically to open up so banks have more clarity on what they can do, what they can hold, and I said this down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if down the road, you're in your Bank of America or something like that, you're holding some stable coins, almost like your portfolio, you can hold stuff like that. Your Bitcoin, you can actually hold it, and I don't know if you want to, but, you can hold it in your bank account, essentially. I think whenever they finally do that, because remember, everything in your bank is basically insured up to a certain amount, they would have to clear a lot of hurdles for them to be able to insure, if they're holding your Bitcoin or your Pepe or something like that, they federally can insure, up to a certain amount that if anything happens to that while it's in their hands, you're secure as far as them having to pay you back. So a couple projects that we obviously follow on the channel that have been doing very well is mentioned it earlier, ZBEC, ZBCN on Solana's ecosystem payment solution project, doing very well. We ran up yesterday up to the 60 area, did fantastic. This thing has been rallying the last few weeks. Obviously, we've had little areas where we're cooling off, but man, if you just go back to the beginning of July, technically 4 weeks ago, right? If you catch that bottom to where we're at right now, ZBEC's up 141% in the last 4 weeks. Absolutely killing it right now. So looks great. Been slowly but surely just picking my bag back up because you guys know I did sell. Started buying back in. I did sell, and now I'm buying back in as of now. Kind of just been taking these swings. But like I said, I'll stick and move on a lot of these projects. It is risky, right? When I hit that sell button, I'm like, shit. I just made money, but I'm like, if this thing keeps rallying, I'm going to get left behind, or I'm going to have to buy it, buy back higher. So it is risky, so I don't wait for this thing to like when I sell up here, I'm like, oh, it's going to crash 50%. No, if it drops down 5-10%, I'm buying all back in, really just to pick, my position right back up. Another project that I've done the same thing is a meme coin that I brought up. I was bringing it up a lot on the members only stream, but I did mention this a couple times on the actual stream. This is Mask that's on Solana. This project has been ripping. If you go back just literally the end of the third week of July, right? So the 21st, it's been technically a little over 2 weeks from the bottom to where we're at right now. Mask is up 270%. 270%, and this is not even catching the exact top right here. So you're talking about a solid 5, potentially 6x, 7x from the top, from the bottom right here, since we called this out right here. And I've been, swing trading this as well, but I've been buying right back in. Another project that I do believe, this project, $16 million market cap, very low. It's got literally like 32, almost 33,000 different holders as of now. And I mean, this thing has got massive hype behind it. Literally going on over 2 months and every day, multi-million dollars in volume just on pump swap alone. Not even taking in consideration everything else. This project with the $16 million market cap, the volume usually is pretty high for such a small market cap. And I'll actually bring it up real quick. $5.5 million. This is doing, and I'm not talking trash about Milady, but this, this project that has half the market cap than Milady is doing literally millions of dollars more. And another thing too is this hasn't even been listed yet on any really big central exchanges other than Mexi and Bitmark. It has not made it to like KuCoin or Crypto.com yet. I wouldn't be surprised down the road this easily gets onto some mid-tier exchanges, and this market cap easily exceeds over $100 million. So that's just my opinion. I've been, like I said, anybody that's like on my members that, when I pointed this out on their own, accordance, they picked it up, because I'm not giving out financial advice, but if they did, they're obviously up like crazy for this project. So you guys can see. So any areas that I'm looking really for this is, right now, because it's been steadily moving up, but you can see it's been kind of moving in waves, right? So you'll have these highs, and then it'll kind of retrace, highs, retrace, highs. I wouldn't be surprised if we break below maybe the 1.5 cent or below, somewhere around there. Awesome time, in my opinion, to just be accumulating on the project. So that is another one that I'm going to point out right here. And when this thing runs up over $100 million, I'm going to be here. Told you guys. I told you. Other than that, really looking across the board, DeFi on my list, nothing too crazy. Another project that I've been looking at, I think Jay, if I'm not mistaken, you pointed this project out when we were in the trenches, is Monkey. This project right here, I've been keeping an eye out because, again, right, this is on the Solana network. It's been out for about a month and 20 days. Every day the volume is over $1 million just on Pump Swap alone, right? It has about 5,000 holders, so not as big as Mask, but the market cap is only at $5 million. Liquidity looks great, and volume looks fantastic. So this is another project that I'm kind of keeping an eye out. You can see on the trend, it's been making higher lows since it pretty much dropped. So I'm kind of keeping an eye out. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe I jump in on this project. I've never bought in, but jump in at some point. I'm kind of just waiting to see if it's going to come back down towards this, this 38, somewhere below the 40 area, maybe to come back to retest this trend line. I think would possibly be a good little entry point for this project. Monkey. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it, but looks like maybe that might be a move right there, potentially. Tuan, what's going on, bro? What's going on, dude? But all in all, for today, guys, the markets are looking great. We have nothing but positive news coming out, right? Like I said, we've talked about this before. August tends to be a solid month for crypto. September tends to be not the best month for crypto. So what I think, if we can just talk about it real quick, this is stuff that we talk about on our member stream. I honestly think that we're probably going to have a decent month this month. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let me see. This should be it right here. So you can see right here, so 2025, right? So far right now, for the month of August, this is for Bitcoin, we're up about 0.5%, right? You can see if we go back to the last bull run of 2021, right? 4-year cycle, August was a solid month. July was a solid month, right? You can see right here, up 18%. August ended up being up 13, almost 14% back in 2021. You go to 2025, July wasn't a bad month last month, up over 8%, and August obviously just started. We're up about 0.5%, right? But if you go to 2021 and you go over to September, right? On here, 2021, on here, it doesn't look like it was terrible. It was down about 7%, right? But all due reality, when we pull up these charts, and we always do on our members stream, because I always want to keep everybody fully aware, September, it actually started at the end of August, but September was brutal. We had dropped down in 2021, technically about 25% when all in all was said. The reason why it's not reflecting that on here is because by the end of September, at around the third week, we actually found a bottom. We dropped down 25%. Ethereum was down 28% at this time, right? And you remember, well, I don't know if you remember, but we were rallying. We were having a solid, like we're having right now. It was a 4-year cycle. Bitcoin was making new highs and stuff like that. But September came around and we dropped. We dropped bad. But it was the last drop before we ended up rocketing and going into altcoin season. And that's the point of what I'm getting to. So the end of August, it ended up being not the best, but we still closed it out up 13%, but we had started already to drop. And by the second week of September, it was brutal. We were down about 25%, but it was a very short-lived drop. And by the third week of September in 2021, we had already started to move up. And you can see, look what happened right after. October, we were up 40%. 40%, right? So what I'm getting to is I personally think that something close to this might happen potentially. Now remember, we also have where the Feds are most likely going to reduce rates in September, right? So if that happens, maybe that derails us from having a bad September. Who knows, right? We were just going off of history. It's not always going to be the exact same, but a lot of times it'll look similar, right? So we'll have to see how this plays out. I wouldn't be surprised as maybe we get some downward movement towards the end of August. Maybe going into September, we're in the red. When is the Fed meeting? It's in 40 days from now. What day does it actually fall on, though? Possibilities for the 17th of September. All right, yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we potentially, have, some, maybe we end off in August, not the best, going into September, some downward movement, right? But maybe that Fed meeting, which comes almost on the third week of September, will pick the markets back up, and that'll be the final stretch up to start making new all-time highs for Bitcoin, Ethereum finally breaking above all-time highs, and alts, going crazy, us beginning to get into altcoin season. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens, but obviously we won't know until it happens, right? Because we can't predict what's going to happen necessarily. We could get thrown a monkey wrench, which could be good or bad, and it can derail everything. But going off of previous, cycles, 2021, August was a solid month. September was brutal, but man, we left off from there. We shot up. Really, October was probably one of the absolute best months that we had for 2021, and then we topped out in November. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And we went through a poll on the members only stream this past few days ago, and I asked everybody, I said, what do you guys think? We had 3 different scenarios. Are we going to have an early cycle? Are we going to stay on track for the normal cycle where we top out in November? Or are we going to have an extended cycle where we go into 2026? And most people said that we're probably going to have, what was it? What did you guys say? You said 2, right? Where it was like kind of where we topped out at the end of the year, like December is what it looked like, everybody said. So DGG, what's going on? Ricky said, we're setting up for a ripper. Uh-oh. We're setting up for a ripper, guys. Right now, Bitcoin's having a little bit of a cool-off. We ran up to the top of the channel, and you can see we're having a little bit of a cool-off. I would say solid support is going to be somewhere around this 115,750 area if we're going to be coming down to that area. Ethereum is trying to hold that 3,900 area right now. Let's see here. DG, what'd you say? Arena Z? What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? How do you guys think this weekend's going to play out is the question. Do we have anything? Let me see. Let's see if we have any macro stuff coming up next week. We might. Let's see. It's going to give me any information here. PPI. Oh, shit. We got inflation numbers coming out on, what is this, the 12th? So that's going to be, that's Tuesday of this week coming up. So we have inflation numbers coming out. It looks like as of now, core inflation is forecast to come up year over year. Inflation rate month over month is supposed to come down. And core month over month is supposed to come up slightly. And year over year is supposed to come up slightly as well. Is what they're anticipating. We'll see. We'll see, because that won't be good. If inflation, even if it comes up just a tick, that won't be good. Mark my words. We'll be here. We'll be doing this live Tuesday. But mark my words, if inflation even comes up a tick for the year-over-year core, month-over-month core, this is going to start fluctuating like crazy, where you're going to start seeing I think wouldn't be surprised if right now we're at about 90% are calling for some kind of a reduction. I wouldn't be surprised if this starts to move up, where people are starting to indicate that we might see a pause. Because remember, if inflation's moving up, that if you can give Jerome Powell just any reason right now to not reduce those rates, he is going to take it. Because you guys know, for whatever reason, he does not want to reduce interest rates whatsoever. It doesn't matter what data is provided to him. So we'll see. So yeah, we have that coming up. So I wouldn't be surprised, personally, this weekend we might who knows? We might start seeing Sunday afternoon. We might start seeing a little bit of a move towards the downside with anticipation of inflation numbers dropping on Tuesday. So we'll see. But all in all, everything looks good, guys. Ethereum broke 4K. Let's just be happy about that. Let's take the win for right now. Like I said, no matter what happens in these next 8 weeks, it doesn't matter. We know what's going to be what's coming. I still am on the 4-year cycle. I still do think that in these next few months, a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people that are watching this channel, you guys are going to be doing very well, along with myself, right? Because we've been buying at the right times, been hodling, kind of just waiting for altcoin season to kind of just pop off. So we'll see how this plays out, guys. But with that being said, that is pretty much it. Members will definitely be here this weekend. We'll have some trench streams and stuff like that, so be ready. Other than that, guys, make sure you guys slap that like. Have a fantastic, productive Friday, and I'll see each and every one of you guys next time we're live, all right? All right, thank you.